I adopted my niece. After my sister abandoned her. But now my sister wants her back. I still remember the night my sister left her. It was raining. One of those relentless storms that made everything feel heavier. I had just settled in for the evening when the pounding on my door shattered the quiet. When I opened it, there she was. Megan, my sister, soaked to the bone, makeup smeared, her whole body trembling. And in her arms, barely more than a baby, was Lily. Megan shoved her into my arms without a word, her breath reeking of alcohol, her hands shaking so badly that for a second I thought she might collapse right there on my doorstep. "I can't do this anymore," she had said, her voice hollow, distant. "She's better off with you." I should have asked questions. I should have made her explain. But one look at Lily, her tiny face streaked with tears, her little hands clutching onto me like I was the only solid thing in her world, and I knew. Megan wasn't coming back. She wasn't going to change. She had made her choice, and she was leaving her daughter behind like she was nothing more than a burden. I had always known my sister was reckless, selfish, too lost in her own chaos to think about anyone else. But this was different. This wasn't some bad decision she could brush off, some mistake she could fix later. She was walking away from her own child, disappearing into the night without even glancing back. And from that moment on, Lily was mine. The first few months were hard. I had never planned on being a parent. My life had been built around independence, around a steady job, quiet evenings, and the freedom to come and go as I pleased. But all of that changed in an instant. Suddenly, I was waking up to midnight cries, learning how to soothe a child who had been abandoned by the one person who should have loved her most. I was sitting through doctor's appointments, filling out preschool applications, figuring out how to braid hair and pack lunches. Every time Lily called me auntie in that tiny, hesitant voice, I felt the weight of it, the responsibility, the trust, the way she clung to me because I was all she had. Years passed, and what started as an obligation turned into something deeper, something unshakable. Lily wasn't just my niece anymore. She was my daughter in every way that mattered. I was the one who held her hand through nightmares, who cheered her on at school recitals, who kissed her scraped knees and taught her how to ride a bike. When she ran to me, arms outstretched, calling my name with unfiltered joy, I knew there was no difference between the love I had for her and the love any parent had for their child. She was mine, and she wasn't Megan's, not anymore. But then, after all these years of silence, of absence, of not even a damn phone call to ask if her daughter was okay, Megan came back, and she wanted Lily. The first time I saw her again, standing on my porch like she had any right to be there, I felt something I couldn't quite name. Not just anger, not just resentment. It was something colder, something deeper. Megan was dressed differently, cleaner, more put together, her hair sleek, her expression carefully measured. The chaos that had once surrounded her like a storm cloud was gone. But her eyes were still the same. Still calculating, still searching for an angle, still looking past me like I was just an obstacle in her way. "I want to see Lily," she said, as if she had the right to demand anything. I didn't answer. I didn't move. I just stood there, gripping the edge of the doorframe, every muscle in my body tensed like I was bracing for a hit. "I know what you're thinking," she continued, her voice softer now, carefully controlled. "But I've changed. I'm sober. I have a job, a home. I'm her mother." The word sent a sharp, bitter taste through my mouth. Mother. Where had that title been when Lily had cried for her at night? Where had that responsibility been when I had to explain why her mommy never called? Why her mommy wasn't like the other mommies at school? Where had that love been when she had walked away without hesitation, without even bothering to check if her daughter would be okay? "No," I said, my voice firm, unshakable. Megan's eyes narrowed slightly. "You can't just shut me out." I took a slow breath, forcing myself to stay calm. "You shut yourself out," I shot back. "You left her, Megan. You don't just get to waltz back in now that it's convenient for you." She sighed, running a hand through her hair like she was the one dealing with a difficult situation. "Look, I know I messed up. I know I wasn't there. But people change. I deserve a chance to be in my daughter's life." I clenched my jaw, my nails digging into the wood of the doorframe. Deserve? No, she didn't deserve anything. Not after what she had done. Not after all the years of silence, the years of being absent while I picked up the pieces. But Lily deserved stability. She deserved safety. And I would do whatever it took to protect that. Megan must have seen the refusal in my eyes because her expression shifted. The calm mask slipped, and for the first time, I saw the flash of frustration beneath it. "If you don't let me see her," she said, voice sharper now, more pointed, "I'll take you to court." And there it was. The real reason she was here. This wasn't about love. This wasn't about making things right. This was about control. I didn't flinch. "Go ahead," I said, my voice steady, cold. "Try me." Because she had abandoned Lily once. But I never would. And no matter what it took, no matter how far she was willing to go, I was going to make damn sure she never got the chance to hurt that little girl again. Megan's threat hung in the air between us. heavy and unspoken, but I could see it in her eyes. She expected me to crumble, to back down, to fold under the weight of the idea that she might actually try to take Lily away. But she didn't understand something fundamental. I wasn't the scared sibling who had spent years trying to fix her mistakes, trying to hold the family together while she ran from every responsibility life threw at her. I wasn't the pushover who had once cleaned up after her reckless choices, who had watched her spiral and hoped, just hoped, that she would finally get her life together. That person had died the night she left Lily on my doorstep, replaced by someone stronger, someone who had fought tooth and nail to build a home, to create a life where Lily never had to wonder if she was wanted. Megan had no idea who she was dealing with now. I crossed my arms, letting my gaze settle on her, making sure she saw that I wasn't afraid. "You're serious?" I asked, my voice calm even. "You're actually standing here after abandoning your own daughter, thinking you have any right to threaten me?" Megan didn't even blink. She had always been good at pretending to be unaffected, at acting like nothing could shake her. But I had known her too long, seen too much of her to be fooled. I saw the tightness in her jaw, the way her fingers curled just slightly into the sleeves of her jacket, the tiny signs that she was preparing for a fight. "I'm not threatening you," she said smoothly, though the sharpness in her voice betrayed her. "I'm just stating a fact. I am her mother, and the law is on my side." The laugh that escaped me wasn't planned, wasn't calculated. It just slipped out, cold and sharp. "The law?" I repeated, shaking my head. "Megan, you don't even know the first thing about what the law says when it comes to you." I stepped forward, watching as the first flicker of doubt crossed her face. "Do you even know how long it takes before abandonment becomes a legal argument?" "Because I do. I know exactly how long it's been since you left. I know exactly how many missed calls, how many unanswered texts, how many years of absence it takes before a judge looks at you and sees what you really are, a stranger." Megan's lips parted slightly like she wanted to argue, like she wanted to throw something back in my face, but she didn't, because she knew I was right, and I wasn't done. "You didn't just leave Lily for a week or a month. You disappeared for years," I continued, my voice steady, unwavering. "You never sent money. You never asked how she was doing. You never even bothered to call on her birthdays. And now, suddenly you care? Now that she's older? Now that she's happy? Now that she has a life you had no part in building?" I let out a slow breath, making sure she felt the weight of my next words. "You don't get to just walk back in when it's convenient for you. That's not how this works." Megan flinched, just slightly, but I caught it. It was the first crack in the armor she had so carefully put on before coming here. And I knew, deep down, that she hadn't expected me to push back this hard. Maybe she thought I'd be caught off guard, that I'd hesitate, that I'd feel guilty for keeping Lily from her. But guilt had no place here. Because I was the one who had stayed. I was the one who had held Lily when she woke up crying from nightmares. I was the one who had gone to parent-teacher meetings, who had sat through fevers and scraped knees, who had wiped away tears and celebrated milestones. Megan had done nothing except leave. And now, after all these years, she wanted to rewrite history? No. Megan squared her shoulders, her mask slipping back into place. "You can't keep her from me forever," she said, her voice quieter now, but still laced with that same stubborn entitlement. "I have rights." I took a step forward, lowering my voice just enough to make sure she understood exactly what I was about to say. "You might have had rights once," I said, "but you gave them up the moment you walked away." She stared at me, the silence stretching between us, thick and unyielding. I could see the wheels turning in her head, see her trying to calculate her next move. But there was nothing left for her to say, because deep down, even she knew the truth. Lily wasn't hers anymore, and she never would be again. Megan didn't leave right away. She stood there on my porch, arms crossed, staring at me like she was waiting for something. Maybe a crack in my resolve. Maybe some sign that I would back down if she just pushed hard enough. But she didn't understand that there was nothing left to push against. She had burned every bridge, severed every tie. And now she was standing in front of me, hoping I'd be the one to rebuild what she had destroyed. I wasn't going to. "You really think you're doing the right thing?" she asked after a long silence, her voice sharper now, like she had finally dropped the fragile act. "Keeping a daughter away from her mother?" I exhaled slowly, gripping the doorframe just to keep myself from laughing at the absurdity of her words. "Keeping her away?" I repeated, shaking my head. "Megan, you've done that all on your own. You left her. You abandoned her without looking back. I didn't keep Lily from you. You stayed away. And now that you've decided you're ready to play mom, I'm supposed to just hand her over like none of that ever happened?" I let the words settle, watching as something flickered across her face. Frustration, maybe even guilt, though I wasn't convinced she was capable of feeling it. "That's not how this works. That's not how parenting works." She scoffed, rolling her eyes like I was being dramatic. "People change," she argued, tilting her head. "You act like I'm the same person I was back then, but I'm not. I've worked hard to get my life together. I have a steady job, a home, stability. I can provide for her now." I clenched my jaw, forcing myself to stay calm. The way she spoke, as if parenting was just about having a paycheck, as if stability was something that could be measured in dollars, made my stomach turn. Provide for her? I repeated, stepping forward so we were eye to eye. Tell me, Megan. Where were you when she had nightmares and cried for a mother who never came back? Where were you when she had her first day of school and kept looking around the classroom, waiting for a mom who wasn't there? Where were you when she got sick, when she scraped her knee at the park, when she needed someone to tuck her in at night? I took a breath, my voice steady but laced with something raw, something undeniable. You can throw around the word mother all you want, but you weren't there. I was. For a second, just a second, Megan looked like she wanted to say something. Something real, something honest. But then she squared her shoulders, her expression hardening again. She's still my daughter, she insisted, her voice lower now, almost threatening. And I have every right to be in her life. I shook my head, feeling an exhaustion settle deep in my bones. No, Megan, I said firmly. You don't have a right to her. You have a responsibility to her. And you threw that away the moment you decided you weren't ready to be a parent. That wasn't a mistake. That was a choice. And now you have to live with it. She stared at me, breathing heavily, hands curled into fists at her sides. I could see the rage simmering beneath the surface, the way she hated hearing the truth spoken out loud. Megan had spent her whole life running from consequences, finding ways to justify the wreckage she left behind. But this was something she couldn't talk her way out of. She had left. I had stayed. And no matter what she did, no matter how much she tried to rewrite the past, she couldn't erase that. You think you're the hero in this story, she muttered, shaking her head. But you're not. You're just bitter. I exhaled sharply, forcing myself to stay composed. You're right about one thing, I said. I am bitter. Because I watched that little girl cry for you, miss you, wonder if she did something wrong to make you leave. And you know what the worst part is? I used to defend you. I used to tell her that you loved her, that you just needed time to figure things out. But now I know better. You didn't need time. You needed an out. And you took it. Megan swallowed hard, looking away, as if she couldn't handle hearing the truth spoken out loud. I wasn't saying anything she didn't already know. I was just forcing her to face it. She let out a slow breath, regaining her composure, then lifted her chin. If you don't let me see her, she said, her voice cold, I'll go to court. I didn't even blink. Then I hope you're ready for a fight, I said, because I will never let you hurt her again. Megan's jaw tightened, and without another word, she turned on her heel and walked away. But I knew this wasn't over, not even close. Megan might have walked away that night, but I knew she wasn't gone. I could feel it, the way she lingered in the back of my mind like an unresolved storm, waiting for the right moment to strike again. And I was right. Less than a week later, I got the first official notice. A letter, neatly folded in a crisp envelope, delivered right to my doorstep. The sight of it alone made my stomach turn. I didn't need to open it to know what it was. Megan hadn't been bluffing. She was actually taking this to court. I stood there on my porch, gripping the envelope so tightly my fingers ached. The sheer arrogance of it all made my blood boil. Megan hadn't lifted a single finger for Lily in years, had done nothing to prove she was capable of being a parent. Yet now she thought she could march in and demand custody as if love was something you could reclaim with a signature on a piece of paper. She had no idea what she was walking into. This wasn't just some argument between siblings, some petty disagreement that would fade with time. This was war, and I wasn't about to lose. By the time I walked inside and tore the letter open, my hands were shaking, not with fear but with fury. It was all there in neat, formal language. Megan was petitioning for visitation rights, with the intent to seek full custody. She was claiming that she had stabilized her life, that she was ready to be a mother again, and that I had been unreasonably withholding Lily from her own biological parent. My jaw clenched so hard it ached. There was nothing in there about what was best for Lily, nothing about how Megan had failed her, how she had abandoned her without hesitation. Just a carefully crafted argument designed to paint herself as the victim, as if she was the one who had suffered. I set the letter down on the table, taking a slow, deep breath. Megan had always been good at twisting reality, at making herself look like the one who had been wronged. But this was beyond anything I had expected. She was actually trying to rewrite history, to erase the years she had spent running away from responsibility and turn herself into the loving mother who had simply made a mistake. But a mistake was something you corrected, something you learned from. Megan hadn't made a mistake. She had made a choice. And no matter how much she tried to dress it up in legal terms, I wasn't about to let her undo everything Lily and I had built together. I reached for my phone, my heart hammering in my chest, and dialed the only number I knew could help. A lawyer. If Megan wanted to turn this into a legal battle, I was going to be ready. Because if she thought she could just walk back into Lily's life and rip her away from the only home she had ever known, she was about to find out just how wrong she was. Megan wanted a fight? She was going to get one. The next morning, I sat in a lawyer's office, gripping a folder full of documents that laid out everything. The medical records with my name listed as Lily's guardian. The school forms that showed I had been the one attending her parent-teacher conferences. The year's worth of photos, reports, and statements proving that I had been the only constant in her life. Megan had nothing but her bloodline. And that wasn't going to be enough. Not this time. The lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Rachel who had seen cases like this before, flipped through the papers with a practiced calm. "This is solid," she said after a few minutes. "Megan abandoned her child for years. If she wants full custody, she's going to have a hell of a time proving that's in Lily's best interest." "She doesn't deserve anything," I snapped, my frustration bubbling to the surface. She walked away without a second thought. She didn't care about Lily then, and she doesn't care about her now. This isn't about love. It's about control. Rachel nodded. "I understand. But courts don't make decisions based on emotions. We have to prove, without a doubt, that Lily staying with you is the best thing for her. The judge will consider Megan's history, but they'll also look at her current situation. If she has a stable job, a place to live, and no criminal record, they may grant her visitation, at the very least, supervised meetings." The idea of Megan even sitting in the same room as Lily made my skin crawl. "I won't let her undo everything I've done for that child," I said through gritted teeth. "I won't let her walk in and confuse Lily, make her think her mother suddenly cares after years of silence." Rachel studied me carefully. "The court will also consider Lily's wishes," she added. "She's old enough to have a say. If she expresses that she wants to stay with you, that will carry weight." That settled something inside me. Lily knew who had raised her. She knew who had been there for her. There was no way she would want to leave. And Megan? She couldn't fake what she had never built. Rachel laid out the steps we needed to take. Filing a formal response, gathering testimonies, preparing for a potential custody hearing. Every step felt like a battle plan, and I was ready to fight it all the way to the end. But I wasn't prepared for what Megan would do next. The first attack came through social media. Suddenly, Megan was everywhere, posting pictures of herself with old baby photos of Lily, writing long, emotional captions about how she had made mistakes, but was ready to be the mother Lily deserved. She painted herself as the tragic figure, the poor mother who had been forced to leave her child due to struggles beyond her control. And people ate it up. The comments flooded in, filled with sympathy, strangers telling her how brave she was for trying to reunite with her daughter, how unfair it was that she was being kept away. "She's trying to build a public case," Rachel warned me during our next meeting. "She wants sympathy. If she can create enough noise, she thinks she can pressure the court, or at least sway people to her side." "She's lying," I muttered, scrolling through her posts with disgust. "She makes it sound like she was some heartbroken mother who had no choice but to leave." Rachel's expression was firm. "We stick to the facts. Courts don't decide custody based on social media. We have the legal documents, the proof of abandonment, the records that show you have been the one raising Lily. Megan can't erase that." But she was trying, and the next blow hit harder. One evening, after I had put Lily to bed, there was a knock at my door. When I opened it, Megan stood there, only this time she wasn't alone. A woman in professional attire stood beside her, clipboard in hand, her eyes scanning the doorway with quiet authority. "Ms. Last name?" the woman asked. I nodded, feeling a pit form in my stomach. "I'm with Child Protective Services. We received a concern regarding the welfare of your niece Lily. We'd like to ask you a few questions." I froze. My eyes darted to Megan, who stood there with an expression that could only be described as calculated regret. "I didn't want it to come to this," she said, her voice dripping with false sincerity. "But I had to do what was best for my daughter." Rage burned through me like wildfire. She called CPS on me. She was trying to paint me as unfit, trying to make it look like I was the danger to Lily when she was the one who had walked away. Rachel had warned me to stay calm if this ever happened, so I took a slow breath, forcing my expression into something neutral. "Of course," I said through clenched teeth. "Come in." The next hour was hell. The CPS worker asked about Lily's upbringing, her schooling, my financial stability. She inspected the home, took notes, and asked if Lily had ever expressed fear or discomfort in my care. I answered every question calmly, providing every document she asked for. Lily thankfully had slept through the visit, unaware of the chaos happening just outside her room. When the woman finally stood to leave, she gave me a small nod. "Everything seems in order," she said. "We'll follow up, but there's nothing here that raises concern." I exhaled slowly, the tension in my chest easing, until I saw the look in Megan's eyes. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. The court date arrived faster than I expected. Megan walked into that courtroom dressed like a woman reborn, her hair neatly styled, her outfit carefully chosen to make her look like a responsible, loving mother. Her lawyer, a smug-looking man who probably specialized in spinning the truth, sat beside her with a thick folder of paperwork. Lily wasn't present. She was too young to sit through the legal battle unfolding over her life, but her words were. The court had allowed her to speak privately with a child psychologist, and that report sat on the judge's desk, waiting to be read. Megan's lawyer spoke first, weaving a tale of a woman who had made mistakes, but had fought to turn her life around. He spoke of how Lily had a right to her real mother, how separating them was cruel, how Megan was ready to be the parent she never had the chance to be. And then it was my turn. Rachel stood and laid it all out. Every document, every record, every proof that Megan hadn't lost her daughter. She had abandoned her. The judge listened carefully, flipping through papers, nodding at key points. Then, the final document was presented. The psychologist's report. The courtroom was silent as the judge read Lily's words. I love my auntie. She takes care of me. She makes me feel safe. I don't want to live with my mommy because I don't know her. Megan stiffened in her seat. Rachel turned to the judge. This isn't just about who can raise Lily. It's about who has raised her. The judge leaned forward, folding his hands. Ms. Last name, he addressed Megan, his tone unreadable. Your daughter has expressed that she does not feel safe leaving the only home she's ever known. Custody isn't about correcting past mistakes. It's about stability. And from what I see, that stability has always been with her aunt. Megan's breath hitched. Her lawyer whispered something to her, but I barely heard it over the sound of my own heartbeat. And then, the judge spoke the words that sealed it all. Full custody is granted to the child's legal guardian. Megan let out a choked gasp, but I didn't look at her. I had already won. That night I tucked Lily into bed, brushing her hair back as she yawned sleepily. She didn't know the details of what had happened, didn't understand the battle that had been fought over her. But she knew one thing. She was home, and no one, not even the woman who had given birth to her, would ever take that away again.